Right, we will get this recorded at some point today, I promise. So I want to start this week's video by just saying thank you to everyone that watched last week. Last week I seem to have gotten about 4 times as many views as I normally do. I shared this with my friends and family for the first time, so if you are one of those that watch my videos, then I thank you so much. If you're someone that subscribed recently, then thank you so much. It means absolutely everything to me that people are enjoying the work I'm doing. Last week I focused on 3 tracks from emerging talent from Australia. This week I thought I would just do that from home. So we're going to be flying back to the UK, not physically but in a metaphorical sense anyway. So we will be going over some amazing emerging talent coming out of the UK at the moment. But without further ado, it's Friday, it's sunny outside. That can only mean one thing: music club. The first artist I want to talk about today is an artist called Prospa. Now, Prospa comes from Leeds, which is where my mother lives, and Prospa has a really kind of 90s acid house kind of sound to it. It's also really breakbeat inspired, and I don't mean that they use kind of breakbeat samples, but it's got this real kind of broken pattern to the drums, which I think is really cool, especially in a climate where house music and the 4/4 is so powerful. So pungent. I think it's got this real playfulness that reminds me of Crystal Clear's Neutron Dance that came out earlier this year. The vocal samples from this track are very similar to that of Black Box's Ride on Time, which was, you know, a massive hit in the late 80s to early 90s. And the strings remind me of the kind of emotion and drama of Unfinished Sympathy. Sympathy? I can never remember which one it is, by Massive Attack. Or Lonely Souls by Uncle. It's got this real dark side to it, whilst also being incredibly happy. It's a wonderful throwback to a time in music, whilst also sounding really fresh, which I think works really well for any new music. And it's absolutely calling out for a drum and bass remix. Lincoln Barrett, aka Mr. High Contrast, I hope you're listening. This is Prayer by Prospa. The second artist I want to talk about today is an artist called Cartilage. Now, Cartilage is an artist that comes from Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough is in the north of the UK. It's just south of Newcastle, north of Leeds. So yeah, pretty high up in England. I don't know many other artists that have come from Middlesbrough. If you know of any, then please comment below. I'd be very intrigued to know. One of my favourite things about Dylan is his music is the cross junction of hip hop and indie music in a way that artists like Ratboy or Jamie T have done before. It sits very well with them anyway. But one of my favourite things about listening to Dylan's music is that every so often you do hear his accent come through. Something that you don't get a lot in music, especially music from the north. And even a lot of UK artists try and just sound American anyway. You can tell he also takes inspiration from some incredible hip-hop artists like the Beastie Boys. And his sound is very reminiscent of kind of late noughties Jamie T, first album Jamie T, Sheila Jamie T. Fucking croissant! He recently released a new single entitled Wishing Well, which is absolutely brilliant and I highly recommend checking it out. But earlier this year actually collaborated with Jamie T. I know I'm talking a lot about Jamie T, but he reminds me of him a lot. He collaborated with Jamie T earlier on this year on this amazing record. This is Up and Upside Down by Cartilage. Sometimes it's up and upside down. And the last artist I want to talk about today is an artist called Sam Fender. A friend of mine the other day told me to check out Jules Holland's show from last week. Shout outs to Evo. And in particular to look out for an artist called Sam Fender. Sam Fender is an artist who draws inspiration from people like Bruce Springsteen, the Gaslight Anthem, people who tell stories in their music. And in a recent interview he said that this song in particular aims to tackle toxic masculinity, which is something that I know Frank Carter and Idols have talked about quite significantly in their previous music.
Suicide now is the #1 killer.
It's absolutely devastating in young men, isn't it? Yeah, especially.
And it's just, I find that incredibly sad.
The highest rate of death under 45s in men is suicide. And in a supposedly developed country, you've got to think there's a severe dislocation within that society.
The song itself is about, it's kind of a real harrowing, dark song about suicide, but I just love the way that the lyrics go together with the guitars and the rest of the song. The guitar in particular reminds me significant, I can't quite put my finger on it, but I think it's like a Maccabees or a Block Party or a Foals record. The hook in particular reminds me of something very specific. And it has this wonderful, wonderful post-punk drum machine that you would find on a New Order or Joy Division record. He's currently signed to Polydor and was featured in the BBC Sound of 2018 list. And I can see absolutely huge things for him. He's got another record that's come out recently, which was made one of Annie Mac's hottest records in the world, but this song is an absolute standout record, one that I highly, highly recommend listening to. This is Dead Boys by Sam Fender. So there we have it, 3 new artists from the UK. I don't think any of them, none of them have any albums out, so we shall see how many of them go on to do well, but they're certainly 3 artists that I'm thoroughly enjoying at the moment and respect quite significantly. I've been listening to those tracks on repeat for the last few days and I'm just obsessed with them, so highly recommend checking them out. Next week I might try America. We'll see how it works with regards to going to different countries, but I think it's been fun to do the last 2 weeks, so we'll see how it goes. As always, let me know if there's anything you think I should listen to, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.